Hi, welcome back to Via Hafta TV. My name is Avram Rosenzweig, and I'm the host of the show. I'm very delighted to have with me my friend, Lindy Meshwork, who is the director of ORT Toronto. How are you, Lindy?
I'm good, thank you.
We're very happy to have you on the show. One of the reasons that I was excited to interview you today is because your daughter works for Via Hafta, and her name's Lindy Meshwork, and she's really a lovely human being. We just went through Starry Night's event, which is our gala, as you know.
Yes, I was there.
And you were there. It was, yes, and you look lovely. She really, it's not an easy thing to manage because you're talking about dealing with, I don't know, 30 committee members and quite a large budget, and everything has to go like clockwork if you want, you know, the gala to be sort of the definitive gala. And throughout that whole process, from what I could see, I don't know what she does at home, but from what I could see, she was calm, collected, honestly, always had a smile on her face. And I always said to her, your disposition is just really intact, a lovely disposition. So you've done a good job on that, girl.
Thank you.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. What would you like to say about Shauna before we get going about you?
She's everything you said and more.
Yeah, she is, isn't she?
She is. She's also a wonderful mom.
Yeah, she really is. She has two of her own girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's a stepmom to a couple of kids as well, to 3 kids, so it's 5.
Right.
And so her life is just, I think,
Lots of girls.
grown a lot. What would you say as a mom? Would you? I mean, you've done a bunch of things in your life. You've moved, changed cities. You've been involved in many things, helping a lot of people. Would you say being a mom is your #1 thing in life?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yes.
How so?
It just gives me the most pleasure. It's very rewarding, especially when you see them grow up,
right? And
they're happy and they're healthy.
Do you think you're a good mom?
I hope so.
Well, what do you think makes you a good mom?
I think the fact that my kids can talk to me about anything, they always have.
Yeah.
We've always been very close. I try not to judge. I did discipline them when they were young if I felt they were doing something wrong, but at the same time, I always wanted to keep the door open. That they never felt that they couldn't come to me and tell me something.
So it's kind of interesting because Shauna was telling me my mother is not judgmental.
Oh, she said that?
Yeah, that's what she said. And I have to be honest with you, you're a bit of an anomaly in the Jewish community.
You think?
I think so. I think we were raised to judge others. I really do. And sometimes that's a positive thing because you got to keep your eyes open. And on the other hand, I don't know if you'd agree with me or not. Tell me. We really do sort of look at other people a lot, I find. We watch. We wonder about other people. Perhaps it's the Talmudic mind that we come from. I don't know.
Perhaps. I do observe other people being judgmental.
Yes.
But I think, I've given this some thought, and I go back to when I was young with my mom.
Yes.
And we were from Montreal, and we used to ride the bus in Montreal. That time we didn't have a car. And my mother would talk to anybody on the bus. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was very embarrassed. I was, I'm sure I was purple, and I would, she used to embarrass me. But she would get into conversations with anyone. Yes. And non-judgmental, and maybe that was at some level, maybe at some level I saw her and the way she was with people. And
yeah, I think you're right. I'm like that with my son, and I do embarrass my son. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's not, God forbid, I don't want to embarrass, but I think it's a good thing in terms of getting him used to other people. Mm-hmm. The Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Father, says don't judge people because you never know where they were 15 minutes ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
I also find it interesting that you're mostly non-judgmental, and you're a kind person. Hence, what you do for a living, the director of ORT, and we'll get to that shortly. But your background wouldn't necessarily speak to that. I mean, your parents were divorced when you were 15 years old, right?
Right.
And it wasn't easy. It was tough, right?
It was very tough.
So what do you figure sort of went on inside of you that you were able to maintain that gentleness and that beauty of spirit?
I don't know. Yeah. I honestly don't know. I think maybe, again, watching my mom and how she made it through life, and I don't know. I think it's just something that's inside that has always been there.
Were you a good kid? Were you a nice kid?
I was a good kid, yeah. Yeah, I always tried to do well in school, and I was a very social kid.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that was important. And animals have always been a big part of my life.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. I understand that you've committed to feeding stray cats at, I think it's called Puck's Farm in north of
That's right.
Toronto. Well, what is it about animals that is so seductive to you? Why do you love them so much?
I guess because they need help. They're, and again with animals, they're non-judgmental.
Right.
We had a dog for 15 years.
What kind of dog do you have?
She was a golden retriever.
What was her name?
Casey.
Casey?
Yeah. She's gone now about 16 years. I still miss her.
Yeah.
But dogs give unconditional love.
Yes, they do.
And if I wasn't well, she knew it, and she was by my side when I went through rough times in my life. Mm-hmm. Actually, she had cancer, and I'm convinced she stayed around just to be with me.
I'm amazed at how much people love their animals. I've had dogs throughout my life, and cats, hamsters, gerbils, snakes, rats, the whole kit and caboodle, and I love animals as much as the next person. But I just read as an example, a very well-known popular singer decided, I think it was Fiona Apple, decided to cancel her tour because her dog was sick. And I was working that through in my mind. Do you get that? Do you understand that? Is that something you...
That's a bit extreme.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe because if this is her child,
Right, right.
if she thinks of it in terms of that, then I understand that.
Yeah, could be. Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking today to Lindy Meshwork, and she's the director of ORT, most interesting organization that there's an office here in Toronto, as throughout Canada. In fact, they can be found throughout the world. So stay with us because the best is yet to come, and we are taking you into the world of empathy with Lindy Meshwork. Welcome back to Via Hafta Television. We were talking before, you asked me when Via Hafta was started, and we actually incorporated in 1996. Our first programs were in 1997. One of the first things that we did was we partnered up with the Native community in Toronto, and we decided that we would go out into the street on our mobile juice response to the homeless. Have you been on the van?
Yes, I was.
Oh, very good.
It was an amazing experience.
Who did you
I want
out
to do
with?
it again with Lauren.
Who was our outreach worker.
Yes.
So just to set this up for a second, because I want to know about your experience. Again, every night of the week except Shabbat, we take people out and we go under the bridges, down a lakeshore in Toronto, Rosedale Valley, Yonge and Eglinton. And essentially what we do is we provide those people living on the street or near the street with food and cold drinks or hot drinks, depending on the season, as well as a friend.
I saw that.
Yeah. What was your experience like on the van?
It was an incredible experience.
How so?
I couldn't have thought of a person better than Lauren to do what she does. Just watching how talking about being non-judgmental, she was an incredible human being. And I can see the appreciation of everybody that we spoke to on the streets. Unfortunately, it was a very bad night. It was pouring.
Yes.
So there weren't that many people out. So I have to do it again because we didn't really get to meet too many people.
Right, right.
But those that we did, it was amazing. They told me how much they appreciate the Via Hafta van and what it means to them. It was great.
Yeah, that's very good to hear because, you're dealing with a population of people who have been really hurt throughout life. Did you get into any schmoozes, into any discussions with our clients, with people we serve?
Yes, I did. One gentleman, before the rain started to really come down, he was very interesting. He asked me what my sign was, and I told him.
What is your sign?
I'm a Pisces.
So you were born?
In March.
March what?
3rd.
Okay.
And he started telling me about all the famous people that were born around that time.
Right, right.
He was really, you could see he was very knowledgeable, even knowledgeable about Judaism. Judaism. We talked a little bit about.
Was it
the
Sid?
Torah.
A fellow named Sid?
Yes, it was
Yeah,
Sid.
it was Sid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very bright man. I think one of the things that we've been able to teach people who have gone out on our van is that it's not appropriate to say, well, there's a huge group of homeless people out there. We do say that, you know, we're being sort of trained to group everybody together.
Right.
But the truth be told is there's a whole cross-section of individuals living on the street.
Oh, yes. We met all kinds of different people.
Did you meet any Jewish people out there?
No.
There are. There are.
So Sean has told me, but yeah, no, we didn't. We only met about, I would say, about 10 people.
Yes.
And I know there's other nights where she stops for over 100 people. So
Right.
yeah, that's why I say we have to do it again.
I'm really happy that you went out. Good for you. Good
Yeah,
for you.
it was great.
Good
We
for
had a
you.
little incident where some of the guys got a little rowdy
Right.
at some point, but Lauren was, she's amazing.
Yeah, so again, Lauren is Via outreach worker, and she's extremely well-trained. She's intuitive. She understands who the people out there are.
Yes.
She's an interesting thing about one of the departments at Via is called our CPR department. It's Canadian Poverty Relief. And all the individuals within that department at some point in time have been homeless or near homeless, which makes sense because they can empathize with people out there in their situations. So I think that's what you were watching. Now, you are the director of Toronto ORT.
Yes.
Right? Now, ORT was founded about 130, 140 years ago?
About 135, my math is not, 1880.
Okay, whatever, close enough.
1880.
Before we were both born.
Yes.
What was the mission statement? What is it today?
At the time, it was founded in Russia to teach Jewish gentlemen a skill, to farm, to be a carpenter, because they had everything taken away by the Tsar at the time. And these three very wealthy Jewish gentlemen decided they have to do something to help these people earn a living, make a living, and feed their families. So that's how it began. Now we have schools and programs in about 60 countries around the world.
Yes.
And they're still skill training through our international cooperation component, which is in Washington, where they would teach people still to farm in Africa, to sew, skills like that, to the highest tech education training in countries like Israel, Argentina, France. We support Cuba. There's an ORT Cuba, India.
Yes, very good. You know what I find very interesting? We were brought up on Jewish history. Part of that Jewish history is knowledge of the pogroms. So what were we told? That bands of men rode through villages, shtetlich, and terrorized people and killed them and hurt them and took away their properties. But how often do we think that, oh, so what happened a week later or a month later or a year ago? Somebody came along, some Jewish guy came along and started an organization to help those people. We think of that in terms of today, but not necessarily then, right?
No, no. Yeah, or it was also very prevalent after the war. They set up schools in all the DP camps.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you work for a very sort of auspicious organization.
I think so.
Do you have a sense of history when you go to work every day?
Some days, it depends.
Yeah, right.
Some days, yeah, it depends. It's nice. I get calls sometimes from people who just discovered that we're in Toronto, and they'll say, "Oh, I was involved with ORT. I went to actually just last week. Somebody called me and said I went to an ORT school in Morocco."
Very good.
Yeah, so it's very interesting.
It's lovely to get those calls.
Yeah,
it is.
It was actually Albert Einstein's favorite charity.
Oh, was it really?
Very proud to say.
Really?
Yes, and I have seen footage of him speaking at an ORT event.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Lindy Meshwork, and she's the director of ORT Toronto. When we come back, we're going to hear about Albert Einstein and ORT and some of the programs that you do here in Toronto, which are very important because, the Torah says there are 8 different levels, or Rambam, Maimonides says there are 8 different levels of charity, right? The best way to give charity is by giving someone a job.
Right.
Right? We'll be back in a moment. We are taking you into the world of empathy with Lindy Meshwork. Welcome back to Via Hafta Television. If you'd like to know more about Via Hafta, please go to our website. That's at www.viahafta.org. And you will learn about our outreach work here in Toronto, as we were just speaking about, some of our international work. One of the things that we do, which I'm very excited about, and in fact you were involved with in Cuba, I believe,
Yes.
is we create what's called Kinder Kits. And describe our Kinder Kits. What are Kinder Kits?
It's a pencil case full of everything a child, a student would need.
Right.
Pencils, erasers. Actually, the Kinder Kits that I brought to Cuba, the Via Hafta Kinder Kits that my daughter and my granddaughters and I brought to Cuba, had toothbrushes and toothpaste, and it was just packed with all kinds of things the kids could use.
That's excellent. Sometimes we'll distribute indeed pencil cases with stuff. Sometimes it comes in the form of a backpack. Who did you distribute the Kinder Kits to in Cuba?
We found a public school not far from where we were staying.
Just like willy-nilly you walked over?
No, Shauna did some research before we went.
Yes.
And she found this school nearby, and we got into a taxi with these two huge duffel bags full of Kinder Kits, and we brought them to the school, and my daughter, Shauna, and the two girls, Joelle and Savannah, and I handed them out to the kids.
Did they know you were coming?
No, they didn't know. The taxi driver brought us into the school and explained what we had, and they were thrilled to see us, and we were shocked at the conditions of the school.
What were the conditions?
It was dark. There was no lights. The only light that they had was coming through the windows. Very, very rough.
Yeah.
It was just certainly not like we have here.
How did you feel about the disparity between what you have and what they don't have?
I felt bad.
Yeah.
I felt bad about it.
Yeah.
And you get that from the people that you meet too in Cuba. They live a very challenging life.
Yeah, they most certainly do. Yeah. I find it interesting that you and your daughter and your two granddaughters went to a school in Cuba. The taxi driver took you inside. It's a very quaint story. It's a lovely story, really. And then, do you remember the looks on the faces of the children? I did this in Israel. I distributed Kinder Kits in Israel.
Oh,
I didn't want to stand too close because I really didn't want to get into a moment where the kids were taking charity. I just didn't feel that comfortable with it, But the looks on their faces.
They were beaming.
Beaming, right?
Beaming, yeah. From ear to ear.
Yeah.
They were so grateful. We just very quickly went into each classroom, dropped one on each desk, and then went to the next classroom.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And how were your granddaughters? How did they look while they were doing this?
They loved it.
Yeah.
They loved the experience. Actually, they want us to do it again.
Do they?
I think of all the things that we did in Cuba, that really stood out for them. They loved the experience, but they also came to Via Hafta and helped pack the Kinder Kits.
Yeah, they're cuties, those girls.
So, yeah.
Why do they call you the big boss? What's that all about?
I kind of started that.
What is that? Why do they call you that?
Because if they're being disciplined by their mother, or the same for my son and daughter-in-law with their kids, and they'll question, the discipline, I would say, well, you know what? I'm the big boss. So whatever I say, they have to listen to me.
And they do.
And they do. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I sort of work as a mediator.
And that's interesting because you were actually a trained mediator,
That's true.
right? So let's talk about that for a moment because you have a whole sort of bag full of talents and skills. You trained to be a mediator, and then you took your skills to Jane and Finch, which is a sort of a challenged area in the city, a challenging one as well. And you did mediation on a volunteer basis,
Yes,
right? That's very nice.
Yeah, very rewarding.
How did it play out? What did you actually do?
Well, I did all kinds of mediation cases. Some were referred by the courts. Unfortunately, this community center is no longer in existence. They lost their funding, but they would get cases referred by the courts at Dufferin and Finch. So it could be everything from victor-offender mediation to petty theft. I did neighbor disputes, family disputes, parent-teen disputes.
Give us an example of a neighbor dispute.
Okay. Well, noise is a big issue.
Yeah.
Garbage is another big issue.
Let's do the noise thing. One
noise
neighbor
thing?
says, "This guy's driving me crazy."
Yeah.
The woman says, "You know what? He's driving me nuts." What do you do?
Usually what happens is by the time they come to you, they're so angry with each other.
Yes.
And they really haven't communicated. So the whole idea is to try to get them to open up and look at each other. First of all, sometimes they don't even want to look at each other. Sometimes there's fear. In one case that I did, it was in an apartment complex, and this gentleman had his music up like really, really loud at night. Mm-hmm. And it turns out he worked at night from home or something, and for some reason had to have the music on, and it was just a very complicated story.
So he wasn't doing it to bug the neighbor?
No, and he had no idea that it was annoying her to the level that it was.
So what did you do?
So we just get them to look at each other, to talk it out, and they came up with a plan that he can play his music till a certain hour at a certain level, and just it was just as simple as that.
How do you get through the initial, let's say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe hour even, where they're cursing and screaming or not talking and they're not looking at each other? What's that first point of opening them up?
First of all, they're not allowed to curse and scream. That's rule number one.
So there's ground rules.
They have to, they have to be respectful of each other.
Yes.
And that's laid out at the beginning. And you do what they call a case development individually before you come together. So you explain the ground rules. Mm-hmm. And the whole point is they really want to resolve, they have to want to resolve the conflict in order for it to go ahead. And once they know their ground rules, what you do is you get one person to tell you the story, to look at the mediator, and then the other person. And then after that process, you get them to sort of say what they heard the other person saying, just to make sure there's no...
To mirror back.
Right.
Well, I'm going to stop you for one moment because we have to go to a break. I'm most interested in this.
Okay.
It's the human condition, isn't
Yes.
it? Yes, and how it plays out. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Via Hofta TV, and we are talking to Lindy Meshwork, who is taking us into the world of empathy. Welcome back to Via Hofta TV. My name is Avram Rosenzweig. I'm here with Lindy Meshwork, and we are talking about Tikkun Olam, which really is the theme of this show. I believe that everybody has a story to tell, and I think if you look below the surface, sometimes not far at all, sometimes very, very deeply, you're going to find some great, great compassion inside of people, and you'll find experiences and stories that everybody has to tell having to do with helping others. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you meet somebody who's just an evil, grumpy, curmudgeon?
I've never met anybody like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you're in a very fortunate position because, and so am I. A lot of times I'll meet people, they go, "Oh, I had an awful day, I was making a car in the plant, and these people were swearing around me, and they were talking terribly about others." Because of what we do, work in the nonprofit sector, essentially we're surrounded by some pretty good folk, aren't we?
We are. They're very, they're dedicated.
Yeah, they really are.
They are dedicated, yeah. I've been, as I said before, I've been involved for 9 years. A lot of the people that still work with me started 9 years ago. So they've committed for a long time, yeah.
We were talking before the break about your work as a mediator, volunteer mediator. So did you find once you got through that first hump where you sort of got both players or both sides to speak to one another, did you find compassion below the surface?
Oh,
were people
100%.
surprised? Where they go, "I never quite knew that she was like that"?
100, always.
Yeah.
99% of the time.
Right.
They would walk in sometimes, like I said before, they wouldn't look at each other, their body language, they would sit facing the other way. And 99% of the time, they would walk out together, very often saying, "Can I give you a lift?" I mean, it's very transformative. And all it takes is communication.
Was there one particular case that you were involved in that was just like over the top, crazy, nuts? when you're in an elevator, you got 2 minutes to tell someone about mediation, that story comes out, you know?
I had quite a few of those, actually.
Give us an example of an interesting one.
An interesting one.
How am I putting you on the spot?
Well, there was one. There was a gentleman who, for whatever reason, was very antagonistic towards his neighbor. And he had built this big concrete wall between the two properties.
Yeah, that would show it.
Yeah. And would find all kinds of ways to annoy this lady on the other side. I can't go into it, but it was pretty extreme.
Which is tough, isn't it?
It was very tough.
You're living next to someone who doesn't like you.
Very tough.
Yes.
And we finally, you know, first she was actually afraid of him at some level, and she didn't want to come to mediation, but it was court ordered. So they came, and he had his family come with him because he was Italian and didn't speak English very well, so his children would translate, and they would say, you know, my dad is so kind and he's so gentle and he would never do these things. And in the meantime, she had photographs
of him doing it.
Yes. What they were saying,
Yeah.
he didn't do. And it was very sad. Before we completed the mediation, because they were going to come back, he passed away.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yes. And instead of being compassionate, this other party was angry that she wasn't going to get to prove that he,
Really?
you know, that, yeah.
Well, what's your take on that?
I think it was just, there was so much built-in anger. And she didn't get a chance to really be heard because he did pass away, so we couldn't go through the whole process. And so it just, there was no closure for her.
Well, were you surprised at her lack of compassion?
I was, yes, I was
Shocked.
very surprised. Yeah, very surprised.
What did you say to her?
I don't remember at the time. It's a very long time ago. I just remember being very taken aback.
Yes.
And I said, I'm sorry that you didn't, you know, we couldn't resolve this, but, you know, he passed away. And, you know, I hope things go well for you in the future. But that really threw me for a loop.
We have an incredible drive for justice, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still doing mediation?
No, I'm not. No.
So let's go back to ORT.
Unless you count the mediation that I do through my work.
Right. So
and family. I mean, there's always, you know, there's always reasons to mediate.
You know, I find there are people out there, parents out there, grandparents out there who are just naturally wise. And a situation arises and they seem to have an answer or some direction. When something's going on in your house, let's say with your grandchildren, okay, and a little bit crazy mishigas going on, after these years of sort of working through these challenges, do the answers come to you in your mind? Do you say, oh, I've seen this before? Or right away do you say, perhaps we could deal with it this way?
I think so.
That's a talent. That's a real talent.
I think the first thing is to call for calm.
Yeah.
You know, to calm the situation.
Yeah.
And just take it from there.
How do you calm things down when there's an upheaval going on around you?
Depending on the situation, I guess. But just if one of the kids is just very upset and crying, or just to take them away from the situation and sit down with him or her and just hear what they have to say.
So let's say, for instance, we just went through Hurricane Sandy, and we've seen some unfortunate natural disasters go on. We just saw the war in Israel, in Gaza, and they're tumultuous situations. Are you good in environments like that? Do you stay calm?
I think I do.
Yeah.
I think I do, yeah. I'm pretty good under pressure.
Yeah.
I may fall apart after.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
But at the time, I think I do. I do sort of stay focused and try to be mindful.
You might be a good general. Who knows?
No, thank you.
We're speaking with Lindy Meshwork, and we're talking about Tikkun Olam, which is repairing the world. We're delighted that you're watching the show today. And when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about perhaps one of your favorite projects or programs through ORT, because it really is a very auspicious organization, and it's done some fine work over the years. So we'll come back in a moment. We're speaking with Lindy Meshwork, who is taking us into the world of empathy. Once again, if you'd like to learn more about Via Hafta, please go to our website at viahafta.org. That's VEAHAVTA. Or you can give us a call at 416-964-7698. You're welcome to call me at extension 213. We've done quite a few interviews over the last close to a year, I guess it's been. Really had the opportunity to interview some very auspicious Jewish leaders and people involved in community. To me, I always walk away from these discussions deeply inspired. I really do, because life can get tough, right?
Right.
It really can, and we're all faced with challenges. But you know, it's really those people who do beautiful things in life that I think perk us up. You know, that make us recognize that while there may be some people in the world who don't want peace, who are not searching for a better world, I think there are more individuals who are. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree with that.
Yeah, you would
I
agree?
agree with that.
Yeah. So the people you work with at ORT, the programs that you do, who excites you the most? Which events or programs or projects really, in your mind, are sort of the definitive ORT programs?
Well, I think right now it's providing smart boards and computers. We're focused on Israel, and because of the recent events, we were very proud to be able to give the kids computers so that they can continue studying in the bomb shelters.
Well,
yeah, so that was wonderful.
and those are computers that came from Toronto?
Come from World ORT.
Yeah.
We help fund these programs. There's the Schulich Canada project.
Right.
Right. So that's part of the project where Seymour Schulich sort of took a small project that World ORT had started, and now we're installing smart boards and computers into schools in the south and in the north. And it's reaching kids that wouldn't otherwise get this level of education.
Have you received testimonials back from children who have been in the bomb shelters?
I was there myself, actually, in 2008, when the missiles were, coming over. And we, as a group, actually missed a missile by about 15 minutes.
Yes.
But they had shown us where the missile the previous day had landed right near the school, and there was a big hole in the ground. They showed us the bomb shelters. They showed us our smart boards and the computers. And
what was it like for you to see them there?
Oh, it was incredible. It was an incredible experience.
Was it?
Yeah. But one of the best was, a lot of the schools that World ORT supports are very multicultural in Israel.
Yes.
So we have schools that have Druze and Arab, Muslim, Jewish, Bedouin kids, all working and living together, going to school together. And we heard at an assembly, a young Arab teacher got up and said that she was staying at this school to teach for 2 years, not taking any salary. She was staying for room and board because of what ORT had done for her.
Wow. That's a lovely story.
Pretty incredible. Yeah.
And of course, you can't help but wonder is why isn't there more of that, or why isn't it more talked about?
I don't think people realize.
I don't think so either.
No. That there are these kids that go to school together, and I know that's what Via Hafta is all about.
Yes.
It's building bridges, and I think that's the most important thing we can do for our kids.
How is it that you would have arrived at this program specifically? What are the criteria for your programs?
Education.
Right.
ORT is about educating. The line is educating for life. And as you were saying, Maimonides, you know, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, and he eats
That's
for a
actually
lifetime.
Jesus, by the way, but
Really? I thought it was credited to Maimonides.
the point is still the same.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the philosophy. You know, it's education.
So if you go to, let's say, canvas somebody for money, and the program that you're selling is indeed the computer program, how would you sell the program to somebody? What would you say are the most salient points that they should know about?
That it's going to give these students a chance to compete
Right.
in today's competitive world. You know, it's science, it's technology. These are the areas that, you know, that kids need to be educated in. And especially since we donate these smart boards and computers to disadvantaged kids who don't go to the best schools, you know, that a lot of the kids are able to do. So
when you meet these kids, do their lives, do they remind you of your own life at all when you were growing up? Like you mentioned before, you were on the bus with your mom. You said we didn't have a car at that point. So I was thinking to myself, it could be that your family had fallen on tough times. I know that there are certain programs that I do, or certain people that I work with, that I get very soft inside over, because they remind me of some of the very, very difficult times that I went through when I was younger. Do you know?
I can't say that we went through that kind of rough time.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't easy, especially my parents divorced when I was a teenager, and my mother had to go back to school and, you know, really start her life over again. She learned to drive in her 40s and became a kindergarten teacher. So, you know, we didn't struggle to that extent.
Yes.
Not like these kids. So
It's just an interesting question as to where empathy and compassion comes from. And, you know, I've said on the show before that there's a very, very strong belief that empathy is taught. You know, we're born with the capacity to be empathetic.
Right.
And sometimes you'll meet people who come from very, very difficult backgrounds and not very loving and not very embracing, but yet they are so caring of others. And you have to ask yourself, how does that work?
I think it's just inside.
Yeah.
I think it's inside. Or maybe they saw somebody, or somebody was, you know, kind to them at some point. And I don't think you have to necessarily live it to be empathetic to other people. To feel empathy.
You feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Okay, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're actually going to spend the last 6 minutes together. I'm enjoying this interview very much. So please stay with us. We're speaking with Lindy Meshwork, and she's taking us into the world of empathy.
I am reading, that's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. I knew it would be.
I put it down a little while ago. I haven't picked it up for a while. I think the title's Guilty of Birth.
Is it a novel?
It's a novel, yeah.
And is it a good novel, like a Daniel Steele novel? Or?
No, it's not that good because I put it down. But I just finished reading Stephen King's book, which was excellent.
Can you sleep after you read his stuff?
This wasn't a scary one.
Oh,
this was about the Kennedy assassination, and it's a book about going back in time.
Oh, I see.
And the hero in the book goes back and tries to change history. It's very interesting.
Do you like scary stuff?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
No, I don't.
Have you ever seen a horror movie?
I don't. I can't watch horror.
I don't know who's interested in those things, but they're very popular.
They are.
I think it's terrific that ORT decided that one of the programs that they would help fund is the Street Academy. And of course, the Street Academy is a school that we started up 2 years ago for the homeless and for the near homeless. The founder of it is Teresa Schrader, who works in the employee of Via Hafta, and it's really quite something. In 2013, we're going to do 3 semesters, and we have.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's terrific. We have 14 students per semester, and we teach life skills, academia, some really good lectures. And the measurables are outstanding, I must tell you, that there are people coming out of VSA who are going, pursuing higher learning and jobs, and just really doing a good job with their life. So firstly, thank you so much for being part of VSA.
Oh, it was ORT's pleasure to, we felt that it was so in line with our mandate.
Yes.
And educating people and providing them a chance for a better future.
Yeah, we're very grateful for that, and interviewing you now, it makes it even nicer. Did you go down to the class at all?
Yes.
You did? And what were
we sat in on a class.
What were your experiences there? What was that like for you?
It was wonderful to see. It was wonderful to see. We just sat back and watched the class in session. And it's just great to know that these people who were on the streets, I think they're very brave. I think it takes a lot of courage. And don't know if I would have that kind of courage.
I don't know if I would either. I attend the VSA classes as often as I can, and I speak to our students as frequently as I'm able to. And you hear the stories about these kids who were born into a life that they were just so disadvantaged.
Right.
Yet they were regular kids with the same makeup as you and I. The same desire to learn and to love and to be loved.
Exactly.
They just got a really bad break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could have been any one of us.
Right.
It's circumstances, and who's to say we weren't born into a different family? And
you must know about a lot of that because of the work that you've done. Like, do you often think to yourself, well, why them? Why not me? Why him and why not her?
You wonder, but you really can't. It's just for whatever reason it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I think, and we all have our own path, to follow. I started out as a social worker in Montreal, working in foster care, dealing with kids that came from the most disadvantaged families, and it's sad. It's sad. So you want to do whatever you can to help these people.
Does anything scare you nowadays? It sounds like you've seen quite a bit.
Not really.
Yeah. And what about your compassion for children and for teenagers and so on? It must have developed quite a bit over the years, huh?
Yes, I think it has.
Yeah. We were talking before about where does empathy come from. You said it comes from inside. But I think it's safe to say if you develop it, it'll get stronger, right?
And it helps to have a role model. In my case, it was my mom, who really modeled that for us. I didn't really realize it at the time.
Right.
As I said, she would embarrass me, but looking back at it now, I realized that it must have, it just opened my mind to not shutting anybody out,
So for the people who are watching this show, first I think let's dedicate this show to your mother. What was her name?
Rhoda.
Rhoda. Okay, may she rest in peace. Oh, absolutely. Well, what would be one of the fundamental principles? Give us one or two laws that maybe some young parents should consider in terms of developing their children's sympathy, empathy, understanding of others.
I think one of the things is to, again, model tikkun olam by getting involved, perhaps in a charity, showing them that it doesn't take much to make a difference in somebody else's life. I think that's really important.
Yes. Anything else?
Just being a good person, being kind.
Yeah.
I think being kind.
Well, I must tell you, I enjoyed the interview very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
And,
thank you.
I do suggest you find some better books to read.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'm just kidding. But also thank you to you and to ORT for deciding to partner up with Via Hafta, and we're very grateful for that.
It's our pleasure, and we hope to continue the relationship.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. You have been watching Via Hafta TV, and if you'd like to know more about Via Hafta, give us a call at 416-964-7698, or take a look at our website. That's viahafta.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Are you guys on Twitter and Facebook?
Facebook.
Do you tweet?
We don't tweet.
We do not tweet.
We don't tweet.
You should tweet. And we want to thank Lindy Meshwork for taking us into the world of empathy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.